It's almost official. It seems like the elites might have finally lost control of the markets. We're seeing NASDAQ down, gold, silver, S&P 500, Dow Jones, and of course, Bitcoin are all crashing this morning. And it's all because of what we heard Donald Trump say just hours ago. So let's watch this clip. It's low-key, he's still kind of hilarious. So let's watch the clip announcing that apparently the war is back on and the MOU is over. So here we go again, Groundhog Day once again.
Mr. President, is the ceasefire over? Is the ceasefire done? Is the MOU dead?
It's a very interesting question. To me, I think it's over. I don't want to deal with them anymore. They're scum. You know what scum is? They're scum. They're sick people. They're led by sick people. And they're vicious, violent people. And if they had a nuclear weapon, they'd use it. As far as I'm concerned, it's over.
Okay, so you heard Donald Trump say it's officially over. Now, there is a little hesitation there. Obviously, at the beginning of this, he was like, interesting question. As far as I'm concerned, it's over. Obviously, I think there's bigger forces than just what Trump wants, but I will cover all of the kind of aftermath and the bloodbath that we currently are seeing. Just to put it lightly, though, it seems as if the macro headwinds are once again working against us as Bitcoin. You can see Watcher Guru tweet this morning, Bitcoin falls under 62K after Trump says the memorandum of understanding with Iran is over. And again, this is not just a Bitcoin problem. Now, we've seen a lot of things surrounding Bitcoin recently that if you are simply in the echo chamber of Bitcoin Twitter, you might be asking yourself, you might be panicking like, oh my God, did something fundamentally break with Bitcoin? It's like, no, I mean, look, this is a dump for ants, right? Where maybe, I think before I started the show, it was like 61.6 or something like that. I'll give you the current price in a little bit. But again, as we've been watching throughout this whole war since at least February, anytime there has been kind of a fall through in the conversations in Iran, the price goes down. Anytime it seems like the Iran war is over or the ceasefire is going to continue, we see Bitcoin pump. So we are still in this era, this phase right now, where what happens on the macro geopolitical stage does have an effect on Bitcoin. Though it's going to be very interesting to see how the rest of the week plays out. And while I was thinking about this last night, because obviously we got this news last night, and I was like, okay, that's probably what tomorrow's show is going to be on. I was reminded a bit about Saylor selling some Bitcoin. You know, he sold over 3,500 Bitcoin, and a lot of people were saying, hey, look, he's inoculated the market. He's basically showing how saleable and liquid Bitcoin actually is, how much it's grown up. And while I was, you know, kind of getting this new coverage on the war essentially being back on again, we still really don't know what's going on. There's been some back and forth. So maybe just to recap a little bit, there was a skirmish, I believe, 2 days ago, and from the Iran side, they bombed a couple of things. They were bombing some ships through the Strait of Hormuz. On the Oman side, because apparently the Strait of Hormuz on the north side towards where Iran is was completely, you know, they're trying to get in control. They want to get the fees. They want to be the arbiter of who gets to go through. They get to pick and choose who actually gets to go through the Strait of Hormuz. Obviously, it controls about 20% of the world oil. And then on the south side of the Strait of Hormuz, above Oman, they basically opened up their own shipping lane. So there was two shipping lanes going through the Strait of Hormuz, one controlled by Iran, one controlled by Oman. And what happened is ships were going through on the south side through the Oman-controlled shipping lane. And then Iran kind of retaliated. I think they bombed a couple of ships, sent some drones and stuff. And that started a whole new round of bombing campaigns. And then earlier yesterday, we heard Trump basically say like, oh, we're going to go in, we're going to, you know, bomb the F out of them. And now here we are. Late last night, we heard, or early this morning, I guess you could say, we heard from Trump in that clip basically saying, hey, as far as he's concerned, the MOU is done. No more conversations. I do have some recent updates that I just saw right before I went live. And of course, Bitcoin takes a tumble. So we are still in the geopolitical macro big picture that there is a war in Iran, Bitcoin being the most saleable good out there, it usually does front run a lot of the market action going on in the world right now. But again, as I was kind of mentioning a minute ago, I did kind of think about the strategy selling 3,500 coins, and I was like, oh, you know, maybe there is a point about Bitcoin being the most saleable. Look how liquid the market is. When Saylor was selling Bitcoin, Bitcoin didn't crash. Oh, excuse me. And then once we got the narrative that Saylor sold, that's when the price did go down a little bit. And so I was thinking, okay, in this context of Bitcoin being a lot more liquid, or at least being perceived a lot more liquid, it's going to be very interesting to see how Bitcoin reacts the rest of the week. Obviously, on the news of wars back on, or at least for as far as we know, up until, you know, right before the show, I did hear conflicting statements. It's like, okay, maybe Bitcoin being a little more liquid, or at least perceived as more liquid, maybe this next crash won't be that bad. Obviously, in terms of historical crashes, this is nothing, you know, from what, 63 to 61. It's like, always think of it in terms of maybe take a couple zeros off from like $63 to $61. It's like, it's really nothing. It's just like, it is what it is. You know, Bitcoin's going to chop right now. But the real damage, I think, is going on in the broader markets. And I think that's what's bringing Bitcoin down. Again, this is not just a Bitcoin failed story like people would like to paint this out. We're seeing bloody markets everywhere in everything right now, which is probably the most interesting read about this. Here's Kobayashi letter. U.S. stock market futures. This was this morning at 6 a.m. before the markets open. Fall sharply after Trump says ceasefire is over. It was down 1%. S&P 500 was down 1%. NASDAQ down 1.5%. Dow Jones 1.3%. Crude oil, WTI crude oil was up 5%, which is probably the one that really is going to affect most of us, you know, if oil continues to go up. And I think that was why there was a negotiations happening in the first place, because I don't think I've covered this enough on the show. But from all of the intel and all of the kind of talking heads, all of the perspectives that I'm getting in regards to what is actually happening in the Middle East is really hinged on the oil. Obviously, the whole idea when we went in, it was one, you know, stop Iran from having nuclear weapons, two, regime change, and then, of course, the oil. What a lot of people have been missing is ever since this war restarted in February, the U.S. has been using our oil reserves, and our oil reserves are getting really depleted. We're getting to the point right now where, from the last numbers I heard, and this might not be updated because I was looking at this over the weekend, and now we're in a whole new skirmish, so I'm sure things are, you know, changing in real time as we speak. But the U.S. oil reserves were down to about like 2 to 3 weeks. And that's also not even accounting for every other big oil exporter was also deploying oil reserves. We saw China do this as well. And the oil reserves right now are getting depleted. And so that's why I think we saw the initial ceasefire being negotiated, at least the last couple of weeks. This whole idea like, oh no, talks are going really good, is because if the oil reserves get depleted from all of the big nations, that is a big worrying sign. That is something to be concerned about, especially in the U.S. when we are going into the midterms in a few months. So if the U.S. gets their oil reserves depleted, what's that going to mean for you and I? It means gas is going to go up. Energy prices are going to continue to spike through the roof. Yes, they pulled down into the low 70s, but now on this new news, we're starting to see that they are climbing again. About to most likely by the end of the week be back into the $80 per barrel prices. So a lot of this has to do with saving face. I think the U.S. is in a conundrum right now where, depending on who you're listening to, like, we have real issues at hand right now, which is, if we don't figure out a way to negotiate the Strait of Hormuz, negotiate with Iran, get an actual ceasefire put in place, then our oil reserves are going to get so depleted that there really is going to be a lot of calamity going on in the world. Now, this is not to doom. This is just to kind of explain the facts of the matter. That everything we've seen in the last few weeks is all revolving around oil. Trump has been very, I think, upfront or maybe flippant about the midterms. Excuse me. Wow. He keeps saying like he doesn't care about the midterms, and then you're seeing a lot of moves like this where, hey, if the oil prices, gas prices start to go up, energy prices start to go up, that's going to be very detrimental for the Republican Party in the midterms. So now let's see. These were the futures reserves, right? Let's see the actual aftermath of what has happened since the markets open. Well, 500 billion was wiped out of the U.S. stock market at the open once President Trump says the MOU with Iran is over. Obviously, gold was down, silver's down again, NASDAQ, Dow Jones, S&P 500 are down, Bitcoin's down. We saw bond yields go up, the 2, the 10, the 30. They're all rising right now. Oil prices are also rising right now. Like, this is not a good situation right now, okay? Will they be able to figure it out? I mean, hey, Trump has been doing, I would say, some masterful kayfabe here. I forget, kayfabe? Is it kayfabe? I think it's kayfabe. And maybe they'll be able to figure this out in real time. But the markets this morning are not pricing that in. They're pricing in a lot more calamity. And as well, 600 billion wiped out of precious metals this morning. So gold cooked, silver cooked, everything's cooked. And this is all just to basically make the case like this is not a Bitcoin issue. I think one of the big things that we all have to take away from the current Middle East operation is that Bitcoin is now fundamentally a part of the macro conversation. So for a lot of times, for pretty much the whole time I've been in Bitcoin since 2017, we were always very adamant as Bitcoiners that, we don't really even have to think about the macro situation. We don't have to think about the what the politicians are doing. We don't have to think about what the Fed is doing. But that, I think, has fundamentally changed for two reasons. One, January 1st, 2024, BlackRock launched the Bitcoin ETFs. So the institutions are here. And what are the institutional traders looking at? And I'm not just talking about the hedge funds. I'm talking about retail that uses these institutional platforms. They're listening to the FOMC meetings. They're listening to the geopolitical macro landscape. They're watching what's going on with gold and oil and bond yields. And yeah, maybe they do have a little bit of Bitcoin. But when uncertainty starts to spike in these minds of these traders, they always let go of the, quote, riskiest thing in their portfolio. And for many of them, that is Bitcoin. Now, for us on this other side, we're like, okay, cool. Like, Bitcoin is the risk-off trade. Bitcoin is the risk-off asset. Bitcoin is the politically neutral money. Yeah, maybe, the capital. Hold on, guys. I have like something in my throat. One sec. Jeez. Rough morning, eh? They're looking at what's going on in the world, and they they cut off the things that they believe to be the most risky, which is Bitcoin. For us, we're like, okay, cool. Cheap sats, like Bitcoin's going to do its own thing. Not a big concern for us. And I do have a Lyn Alden, I do have a good Lyn Alden clip that she just did with Natalie Brunell that I will play in a minute that I think will kind of back up what we're saying here in a different context. But as we see, Bitcoin right now has grown up. And I think that's the second portion here. Bitcoin has grown up. It is a part of the macro conversation. So we can no longer just dig our heads in the sand and just be like, Bitcoin's just going to do its thing on the 4-year cycle. That may still well be true. But now, as we all grow up, as Bitcoin grows up, we are in the geopolitical conversation. We do have to look at what's happening in all the markets now to really assess what's going to happen in the Bitcoin price. So yes, there is some correlation with Bitcoin and traditional markets. I think at a certain point it will break once people really understand what a politically neutral, government neutral money, non-government money actually means. We are not there yet. In the current moment, a lot of the people are watching what's going on in the world. And the first thing they sell is the most saleable liquid thing on the market, which is, of course, Bitcoin. That is why Bitcoin can basically sell off before the stock market opens up. It's because people are looking at the news and like, oh, shit, I'm going to sell this off. Maybe I can buy at a lower price, or further, maybe they're just panicked and like, I need to sell this off because who knows what's going to happen. as much as it hurts me to say this, as much as I know that JJ on Rumble is going to have his moment of glory, objectionably, cash is still king. Okay. People want cash. And this is all that we're seeing right now. People need the cash. People want the cash. And yeah, Bitcoin, I think, will do what we all think it's going to do. But for many people still, Bitcoin is still just like this little risky play. It's just something you play with. It's not what we believe it to be the end all be all of every investment or every profit taking motive. For us, the finish line is Bitcoin. For a lot of other people in the market, because they haven't fully, I guess, maybe grokked what we believe it to be, Bitcoin, they just view it as something part of their portfolio. They just want more cash. For them, cash is the finish line, or maybe real estate or what have you, art and houses and stuff. But for us, the finish line is Bitcoin. So we're still ahead of the game. We're still sitting there at the finish line, just like looking at everyone play hot potato. And we're like, what are you guys doing? But I know I've been telling you I'm going to do a little more memes here on the show. I do have a good meme here while I move on. I think this really sums up what's going on for all of us. Though this says portfolio, I would just say Bitcoin. And for the audio listeners, it's Iran in the U.S. They're doing like a push-up position, and they swipe one of their hands, and then Iran and the U.S. both swipe our hands, and our portfolio goes to the shit. So since we don't have insider information, we're just kind of watching along, getting cheap sats. We're kind of just the tail on the dog here. We're just following along with the macro until finally there is a catalyst to drive Bitcoin on its own merit to numbers we haven't seen before. Maybe that is the 4-year cycle. But as of now, we are at the whims of whatever Trump, whatever the Middle East is, Iran's going to do, whatever the macro geopolitical landscape is. Now, with that being said, like I said a minute ago, it's going to be very interesting to see how Bitcoin reacts the rest of this week. Obviously, today we're down a little bit, somewhere in the 61K, at least before I started the show. But if Bitcoin is able to not have a huge sell-off and not dive all the way back down into that 57, 60K area, it might be a good data point to show that Bitcoin is truly a liquid market that people can invest in, that people do feel comfortable in. At a certain point, we will see everyone eventually figure out that Bitcoin is the thing you want to hold when there is geopolitical uncertainty. As of now, that's not what they're thinking. They're going to dump Bitcoin when there's uncertainty because usually, again, cash is king. So you want to go to cash when there is uncertainty. For us, we're like, that is the dumbest thing you can do. You want to hold Bitcoin. You want to have something that is separate from the traditional financial system. But most people aren't there yet. Anyways, I did say there were some recent updates here. So right before I went live, I saw Unusual Whales post this. Trump says that Iran has been defeated. So I don't know how many times I've heard this at this point. Who knows what's really going on? And on the flip side, it looks like Iran has suspended talks on a final settlement with the United States. I think I also saw a tweet essentially saying that Iran will not back down on their nuclear power or, nuclear weapons or whatever. So it looks like officially there's no more conversations. Who knows if we'll see something else by Friday. But as of now, the U.S. is claiming they won. Iran saying, hey, we're not negotiating anymore. So really, we have no idea what's going on. All we do know is there is no more ceasefire. The Strait of Hormuz, from what I saw, actually, I saw conflicting reports. This morning, I saw Reuters post that ships are going through the Strait of Hormuz per usual, which was something around 30 to 40 ships. And then I saw from the Iranian side, they're basically saying like the Strait of Hormuz is closed. So maybe that is going through the Oman side. But for all we know, we really don't know. What we can tell is the markets are not liking this. The markets are bloody. Now, on top of that, we are actually here. Maybe I'll save the last part. We'll just look at what the markets are doing right now. So almost, hey, S&P 500 is down. Obviously, Bitcoin's down. Here, we'll start with Bitcoin. Bitcoin did rebound to 62K. Oh, before I went live, it was around 61.4 or something like that. It has rebounded or sorry, 61.5. It has rebounded currently to about 62K. So this is making a good case for what I was saying just a second ago, that it's going to be very interesting to see how Bitcoin reacts moving towards the end of the week. If this is just one of those like dips that gets eaten up, that would be extremely bullish from my perspective. It would add to the idea of Bitcoin being extremely liquid, that, hey, at this point, we've gotten to this phase where even uncertainty about what's going on in the Middle East doesn't really affect the Bitcoin's price. I would love to see that. That would be a great evolution. But let's go. S&P 500, okay. It dipped, but it looks as if it could potentially end positive on the day, still negative on the day. We'll go NASDAQ. NASDAQ's falling off a cliff. It's been falling off a cliff. NASDAQ does not look good. The tech stocks do not look that good right now. Let's see. Where is Dow Jones? Dow Jones also down. Doesn't look as strong as the S&P 500. We'll see gold. Gold is atrocious right now. Back to 2025. The bottom of the 2025 rip. Silver also looks pretty atrocious. I was looking at that this morning. Not looking too hot. Guys, this almost looks like what was it? Was it the 2017 Bitcoin bear market, where, you know, we got all-time high and then we bounced and then we dropped all the way down to like 3,500. But that was a different time. Anyways, let's see. Dixie dollar strength down a little bit, has been up on the last couple of days, but down a little bit. Crude, we are currently at 75. As you can see, it did drop off a cliff for a little bit as the ceasefire seemed to be holding its place. And then now we are spiking back up. Probably the most interesting stuff here, and it's really the most boring stuff here, is the U.S. government bond yields. And you can see those are also rising. Obviously, they're not at the highs that they were up in the fives a couple of years ago, but they are in the mid fours, which it's not looking too good here. They've been wanting to cut interest rates. I doubt we will see a rate hike. If they do a rate hike, that's just not going to work out good for them. Again, 10-year at 4.5, and then 30-year, the long end of the tail, currently at 5. So there is a lot of macro headwinds working against us. And let me see. I haven't even covered the Japan stuff for you. I got some time. I'll just jump into the Japan stuff as well. So I told you last week, I believe it was, that where we currently stand, we got to be watching what's going on in the Asian markets. If you are a financial guy, I would, I guess, argue that I'm a macro guy now. You know, just because Bitcoin's growing up, I'm the reigning macro guy here for some reason. I don't know how that happened, but I have been mentioning the last couple of weeks that we really got to be watching what's going on in the Asian markets, and the bloodbath continues. So South Korea and Japanese markets, over $400 billion has been wiped out. They're getting cooked right now. Now, why is this happening is the real signal here. And it's because this is happening. Japanese bond yields are going vertical. I believe they're at the levels that we haven't seen in 30 years. And we always got to remember, what does the yen carry trade actually mean? And you can boil it down very simply. The Bank of Japan, for the last 30 plus years, at least 30 years, has essentially been the venture capital central bank of the world. You would take cheap debt, basically debt with like no interest, from the Bank of Japan. It was pretty stable. You kind of knew what the interest rates were going to be. They were extremely low. You would take that money and you would invest that in every other place around the world. Well, in the last couple of weeks, we've seen the yen, Japanese yen, get cooked against the dollar. I think this morning it was, or yesterday it was around $160. A lot of people are saying it's probably going to get up to $200, $200 for the Japanese yen, which is basically forcing the Bank of Japan into a corner. They either have a choice. They protect the Japanese yen, or they keep interest rates extremely low. And And I don't think the Bank of Japan wants to sacrifice their people and let the Japanese yen get absolutely cooked. So they only have one thing they can do, which is raise interest rates. And if they raise interest rates enough, which is basically what they've been signaling, that's going to cause global calamity, because now all the cheap debt that everyone was kind of basing their investments on now got way more expensive. And as you can see, the Japanese bond yields are going vertical. Now, there was also this tweet that made the rounds on Twitter, which allegedly is from a Bank of Japan insider. And this went semi-viral on Twitter, and it goes, Yuto Kanzai Kyril. That's my best guess, all right? Anyways, translated from Japanese on Twitter, and it goes, the measures being prepared by the Bank of Japan will affect the lives of billions of people. To the people of the Western countries, I offer my deepest apologies. This is not a personal matter. May God's blessings be upon you. And everyone is basically saying that essentially is a leak coming from a Bank of Japan insider, essentially saying, hey, look, to protect the Japanese yen, we're going to have to dump U.S. treasuries. And most people forget that Japan is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, U.S. Treasury holder in the world. So we are seeing a lot of macro headwinds working against the Bitcoin price, but really working against the macro economy at large. It is the war in the Middle East. It is, of course, the continued war in Ukraine versus Russia. It is now we are seeing the Bank of Japan is probably going to drop U.S. treasuries to protect their currency, also raising most likely interest rates. So the free money era seems to be coming to an end. We've been kind of telegraphing this for a while, or rather not just us, the Bank of Japan and the new, I forget what his name is, the new head of the Bank of Japan. They've been telegraphing that, look, things are going to change. We have to protect our economy. So the free money era is not, it's not completely over, but it is, on life support at this point. So a lot of people are saying this tweet means nothing. They'll probably come out and nothing will happen. This did actually come out on Wednesday night. I was expecting a lot more of a bloodbath yesterday. We didn't see the Bank of Japan actually dump a lot of treasuries. So as of now, maybe the Bank of Japan kind of Japanese contagion is put to a rest right now. But the entire global economy right now is sitting in a very interesting spot. Most people will probably say a dangerous spot. I did see a lot of people go full doomer on this, basically saying like monetary reset. It's happening right now for a more darker system, aka kind of hinting towards a CBDC. But all of this is not working in our favor right now. Yes, we had some life in Bitcoin in the last couple of days. Bitcoin did pump for about 7 days. But right now, I wouldn't be surprised if we do feel a little more pain. I was very convinced that 60K was going to be the bottom. Hence why I keep saying it's going to be very interesting to see what happens to wrap up this week. Because if Bitcoin is able to stay around this above, I would say above 60K, then I think the wick-off accumulation is still in play. But if we do see some form of contagion play out starting in the Asian markets, particularly in Japan, and then, of course, our markets reacting to the news in Iran, we could see a lot of dumping. We could see bloody days in all of the markets right now. We could see oil and energy prices continue to spike. It could be a bad end of the summer. We could be into a lot of economic kind of turmoil heading into the midterms, which is like the worst thing for the Republicans right now, especially when the Republicans and the GOP always run on, hey, you're going to be being richer in the room with us right now, because it doesn't seem like things are working in our favor. I repeat, though, this is not a Bitcoin issue. This is a macro issue. We are just seeing the macro headwinds kind of rear their head again. They're not really working in our favor right now. Here's the Bitcoin. It's a blessing in disguise. You get some cheaper sats. Yeah, we all got to feel a little more pain. Most likely the bear market's going to continue for a little longer, but who knows? Maybe we get a, quick little pullback and then we start to climb up again. I would be very bullish on that movement. If we dump, it's over. No, it's not over. It's not over. It'll just, probably have another leg down. Who knows where we'll land? It's like the reverse Willy Wonka meme when he's in the elevator, it's like, how high are we going? He's like, no one knows, where we're going. No one knows. Well, that's kind of where we are right now, except on the downside. Where we are falling, no one knows. But hey, buckle up, stack some sats. If the price is getting to you, maybe you have too big of a position, not enough cash to pay your bills. Maybe you just don't fully understand what you are holding. Because all of us Bitcoiners that have been here for a long time, we're just like, all right, like I'm just bored. I just want to have fun again. I just need the dopamine rush of seeing Bitcoin rip, because this sideways action for years at this point, it's just killing me. I'm just bored. I'm just absolutely bored. I guess maybe that's why I've had to really sharpen my teeth on what's going on in the macro world, because like Bitcoin's just like boring. It's just like, oh man, all right, we're stacking more sats, but nothing is happening. It's just par for the course. All right, guys. Anyways, just to repeat, if you're newer here, welcome to the bear market. It's going according to plan. If we're reading all of the headlines around Bitcoin, it's like, dude, Bitcoin is winning so hard. We have so much good news behind us. But until we clear the macro headwinds, we're just in the eye of the storm. Actually, we're not in the eye, because we're getting beat up. We're in the storm, okay? Well, Trump is the eye of the storm. We are on the outskirts getting beat up right now. But there is actually, did I pull this up? Did I add this to here? Okay, there's one more thing I do want to touch on. How long have I been going? Yeah, whatever. I'll keep it going. This is very interesting, and I wish I had this on yesterday's show. But Matt Hogan just tweeted this morning, and apparently he read one of Scott Bessent's latest speech, and he found something very interesting in there. And it does add to what I've been saying about the Trump administration is very adamant about Bitcoin and crypto, etc. And this is why I would say Trump is the eye of the storm, and we're kind of just on the outskirts. Until these macro headwinds clear, Matt Hogan tweeted the latest Scott Bessent tweet, and he goes, Bessent organized his vision around 5 principles, and principle 3 is America will write the rules of the next economy. He gives one example of what this means. Quote, digital assets, stable coins, tokenizations, and new payment systems will help to shape the future of money. The United States should not consign itself to the sidelines while that future is built elsewhere. If you wondered how committed Washington is to making crypto succeed in the U.S., that tells you something. So it is adding a lot of the pieces together. It's like whether the monetary reset is being planned right now, or whether you're more of the like World Economic Forum conspiracy theorist lane, where it's like, oh, this was all planned, the planned demolition of the economy so that they can get digital ID and CBDCs, which there's a lot of data to back that narrative up. I don't mean to disparage that view by calling it a conspiracy theory. There is a lot of things happening that do make that lane very plausible. As I've been saying, Bitcoin is a plan, a part of the Trump administration Mar-a-Lago Accords here. So if you're viewing it in a maybe more MAGA trust the plan view, it's like, oh, this is, they planned all of this. I've heard people say like they planned, the war in Iran was planned so that they can crash the economy and usher us into a Bitcoin or stable coin or CBDC type future. And I'm like, I don't think they planned for them to fail in Iran. Now, again, I already hear Down Under Blues yelling. Maybe you think they're winning the war. Maybe you think this is, 5D plan trusting. But what we do know And I think this might be more of a line with what we are currently seeing in real time. Yes, there is a plan to use Bitcoin and stablecoins in this monetary reset, this global trade reset. But was it all planned ahead of time, to exact detail? No, I think what might be happening is they are in real time kind of adjusting what is going on. And as we constantly see, Bitcoin is a part of that conversation. I guess maybe that's the biggest silver lining of the war in Iran is like Bitcoin is now in the conversation. It is in the mainstream. Remember, a lot of Bitcoiners, especially Nico, was on the show essentially saying, hey, Bitcoiners voted for Trump, but like now we're in the room. It's kind of that same ideology, that same perspective. It's like, look, we just heard Trump yesterday say like, I only embrace Bitcoin for political reasons. But now further, Bitcoin is in the conversation. It is in the room in the macro picture. Bitcoin is growing up. It is on the path to world domination. Let the Trojan horse in, and Bitcoin will just do its thing. Anyways, on that note, I do want to keep it moving because I saw this interesting clip of Lyn Alden on Natalie Brunell, and it's kind of I would say maybe the first sentence is a hot clip. She says essentially like nothing's going to come save Bitcoin. So you watch it, you're like, oh, snaps. But I think leading, or rather kind of adding to this segment, is a good perspective to be listening to. So let's hit the first commercial and I'll be right back. Here's the part that nobody says out loud. Buying Bitcoin on an exchange and leaving it there isn't buying Bitcoin. It's buying an IOU. And the last decade has been a masterclass in what happens when those exchanges don't deliver on their promises.
Bitcoin Well is a self-custody Bitcoin platform. That means that when you buy Bitcoin, it goes straight to your self-custody Bitcoin wallet. You actually own it from the very first transaction. They're available both in the United States and Canada. Pricing is transparent, straightforward, and no nonsense. And if you're buying a larger amount of Bitcoin, Bitcoin Well Infinite gives you concierge-level support through a dedicated executive Bitcoin advisor, premium help for when it actually matters.
You can also stack a little extra through the referral and wishing well rewards. A nice bonus on top of the owning your own Bitcoin thing. So go to bitcoinwell.com/simply and sign up for the Bitcoin Well portal today and buy Bitcoin you actually own. Paper burns, paper floods, paper fades. If your seed phrase is written on paper, it's not really backed up. It's waiting to disappear. Stampseed's DIY kit lets you hammer your seed words directly into commercial grade titanium. Fireproof, crush-proof, waterproof, and permanent. Once your words are in the metal, they aren't going anywhere. Use code SIMPLY at stampseed.com for 15% off anything in the store. That's stampseed.com, code SIMPLY. Yeah, people like, yeah, chat. I just saw you guys' comment of like audio being wrecked. Apparently just refreshed, but I was just thinking, I'm like, dude, have I just been ranting for 35 minutes with no sound? I'm like, bro, what a bad day. But no, apparently my audio's working. All right, thank you guys. Anyways, current Bitcoin price is $62,030. I repeat, 62,030. We are currently down 50.8% from all-time high. We are back to a 50% discount. Gotta love it. Market cap under 1.24 trillion. And the current block height is 957,205. Okay. So again, shouts out to Natalie Brunell on her Coin Stories podcast. She had Lyn Alden on, obviously one of the longtime macro influencers in the space. And I thought this was a really good clip. It does sound a little doomerish, but I tend to agree with the sentiment here. So let's just play it and then we can chat about it a little bit.
I don't think there's anything coming to save Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin has to kind of, either its merits are going to be seen by the market, and it's going to be bought, by players in the market, and they're going to take advantage of, cheap sats and a lot of the fast money washed out, and a lot of the parts of the ecosystem deleveraged, and then it'll climb its way up, and then once it starts climbing its way up, that of course gets outside money interested again. That's what makes it become fast money. Something's, you know, bottomed and rolling up. You get, again, the technical chartists that come in and say that's actually a pretty good chart. You get the momentum traders, you get the FOMO traders, and you get all the marketing around, you know, Bitcoin one day reclaiming 100K and then reclaiming all-time highs, and it just kind of feeds on itself. And until then, I think the asset just has to survive on its own merits.
Gotta love it. Gotta love it. I basically have been saying this similar thing, and maybe this is me, you know, you guys know I do this all the time. Maybe it's because I troll that I have such a low IQ that sometimes I forget, like, I kind of get what's going on. But I keep saying, it's like, look, what did I just say at the beginning of the show? It's like, we got macro headwinds. They're back on the table. We're in the storm right now, in the geopolitical macro storm right now, all the chaos going on in the world. And once Bitcoin is able to essentially clear through that storm, once we can, you know, hamper down the the sales here, hamper down the batches. I don't know, is that the idiom? Then we can start to finally turn this around. Maybe that does line up perfectly with the 4-year cycle. Maybe it is, you know, for the next 2-3 months where we're just going to kind of be going sideways again. But once we do turn around, it is almost a self-fulfilling prophecy, in the sense that Bitcoin, like I keep saying this whole week, it's like Bitcoin is a narrative-driven asset. Yes, there's fundamentals in Bitcoin that we all love, you know, hard cap, 21 million, censorship resistant, peer-to-peer, permissionless, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You've heard all of the isms before. But until the narrative is back in our favor, and essentially until number goes up again, we just really have to survive. Like, that's just the name of the game. So for a lot of people that haven't been in Bitcoin for a long time, the name of the game for you is the same as it is for Bitcoin. You just have to survive with the majority of your coins. I would argue with as many coins as you can, or as many sats as you can, because this is that portion right now where, look, nothing will really fundamentally come save Bitcoin, unless actually maybe one thing, like, you know, a whale comes in and buys a whole bunch of Bitcoin on the open market. That would probably save the price. But until that conviction comes back, until we see a lot of accumulation come back, until these macro headwinds kind of are no longer working against us, and they do in fact turn into tailwinds and the price starts climbing again, that's when the party really gets started. And, you know, I love when Lyn Alden says her macro takes on stuff. Again, like I was saying, it's really more selfish for me. I'm like, oh, okay. Like, she's confirming basically all I've been saying. It's I guess maybe it's not that difficult. If I can understand it, maybe it's not that difficult. But maybe it's just like experience-wise, this may be the only real nugget of wisdom for you. I'm giving you all of the summaries of what's going on, but it really goes back to the age-old, you know, saying of time in the market beats timing the market. What differentiates me from someone that's new in the space? It's just I've been around the block a little bit. I've dealt with bear markets. I know the psychology of how it feels when you are getting kicked in the teeth during a bear market. You start to see all of this stuff. And now that we are entering in the macro, yeah, that's like the newest rabbit hole for me, is trying to understand what's fundamentally going on in the macro conversation. You just see all of this happening. You're like, dude, it's so simple. It's like, all right, bear market. Once we start climbing again, once we get out of the macro storm right now, once people start realizing that Bitcoin isn't boring, which happens every cycle, price starts coming back, people start getting interested in Bitcoin, we'll see a whole new FOMO rage, essentially being like, oh, wait, I had forgotten about this Bitcoin thing. Like, I thought it was dying. I thought it died 100 times already. Once people realize that the shiny thing is not really, you know, everything is not made, everything that glitters is not gold. Once that starts to sink into the broader investor community or financial community, That's when the fun happens. And actually, I wasn't going to bring this up today. Everyone. All right, hold on. I think you guys need to just refresh your browser. I'm not muted over here, okay? Refresh browser, guys. I don't know what's going on with YouTube or my streaming, but apparently it's good. So just refresh your browser. I need a refresh. No, I saw this report. Actually, it was a tweet, and I didn't actually dive deep into it. But if the tweet wasn't just engagement baiting, it basically said something on the lines of like the government just admitted that there's an AI bubble. And I'm like, oh shit. All right. Hey, I was right again. Vindicated once again. I didn't actually read the tweet. I didn't think I was going to even talk about it on the show. But if that is the case, it's going to be so much fun, dude. You know, everyone getting wrecked at the top of AI. Bitcoin's at the bottom of a bear market. Capital starts rotating. The tsunami of money starts flowing into Bitcoin. Ah, man, a boy can dream. A man can dream, can he? A man can dream. Nothing gold can stay. I don't know what that means. All right, anyways, let's keep it moving. What do I got over here? Oh, yeah. Remember Vanguard? We haven't really talked about Vanguard for a while, right? Well, there's been a lot of speculation that Vanguard has finally officially capitulated and bent the knee on Bitcoin. We'll cover that initial story. We did get an update again this morning, and they are contesting this. So I thought it'd be interesting to talk about because maybe I have to go through the saga for some of you guys, but quick commercial break. I'll be right back.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, Alden. Here's something most Bitcoin holders never figure out until it's too late. You're sitting on wealth you can't touch without selling. Alden fixes that. Bitcoin-backed loans. You keep your stack, you get cash. And they just introduced their lowest rates ever. No complexity, no fine print. The larger the loan, the lower the rate. These new rates apply to all new loans, refinances, and renewals. You'll see all the rates up front before you apply. The new, lower rates come with Alden's gold standard protection. Your Bitcoin remains custodied and is never lent out for interest. Perfect 8-year track record of keeping clients' assets safe. Auto top-ups, LTV alerts, and partial repayments to keep you in control. Repay whenever you want with zero penalties or monthly payments. Alden's perfect $10 billion track record through every market cycle in the last 8 years speaks for itself. Don't choose between a great rate and the safety of your Bitcoin. Get both at Alden. If you ever thought, what happens to my Bitcoin if something happens to me? Or what happens if I lose my phone? You're not alone. For a lot of people, the biggest barrier to self-custody isn't buying Bitcoin. It's the fear of making a mistake. And that's why I like BitKey and I recommend it to my friends and family. BitKey is a Bitcoin wallet built for real life. Not just for day one, but for everything that happens in between. Lost devices, upgrades, accidents, and long-term ownership. There's no seed phrase to write down and worry about losing. And no single point of failure that can lock you out of your Bitcoin forever. What really stands out about BitKey is the peace of mind. Recovery is built in. Inheritance is built in. It's a complete self-custody system built by the team behind Square and Cash App, designed to make holding your own Bitcoin simpler and safer. Take self-custody of your Bitcoin today using BitKey. Go to bitkey.world and use promo code SIMPLY for 10% off your new BitKey. That's bitkey.world, promo code SIMPLY.
Wait, before I go on, C-Suite on Rumble goes, hodl the line, when is hurricane season over, Opti? I'm tired, boss. Well, funny enough, down here in South Florida, there is hurricane season, and it goes from June 1st through November 30th. Hurricane season over Q4? No, the 4-year cycle maxis can't be right, bro. I refuse to believe it. Okay, anyways. Oops, wrong one. Here we go. Okay, so everyone saw this. Vanguard, with $10 trillion of assets under management, is looking for a head of digital assets for the first time. Successful candidate will develop the multi-year digital assets roadmap for the 10 trillion plus asset manager. Let's look at the headline here. Head of digital assets, personal wealth, locations, Dallas, Texas, Scottsdale, Charlotte, Malvern, Pennsylvania. Posted July 6th. The head of digital assets will lead Vanguard's personal wealth, digital asset strategy, roadmap, and enterprise execution. Defines how Vanguard will evaluate, prioritize, develop, and implement digital asset capabilities, products, and operating models in a way that advances Vanguard's mission, serves clients, and strengthens our long-term competitive position. They will serve as Vanguard's senior subject matter expert for digital assets across personal wealth, partnering across product, technology, operations, client segments, risks, legal, and compliance to shape and deliver a scalable end-to-end strategy. Represents Vanguard externally and with industry participants, regulators, and clients, and helps influence thought leadership and market standards in the evolving digital asset ecosystem. All right, but for you guys, maybe you're asking, newer guys, it's like, why am I talking about this? Well, if you weren't here in 2024, there was an infamous Vanguard saga. And it was the current CEO at the time, while BlackRock was launching their ETF, while we were seeing hints from Morgan Stanley and Goldman Sachs and a lot of the big asset managers and banks starting to, at the very least, not be negative towards Bitcoin. We had one loud voice, and it was the Vanguard CEO. I forget what the guy's name was. He had glasses. He kind of looked like, low-key kind of looked like a Chad, but he had some glasses. He's blind like me. Dude, we're blind Chads. Let's go. He famously came out and said, like, Vanguard will never, we will never get into Bitcoin or the ETF, Bitcoin ETFs. It's like we were never getting into the digital asset ecosystem. And then a month later, he got fired. And then they replaced the old CEO with a new CEO who was literally the guy that built the BlackRock Bitcoin ETF product. That happened, I believe it was either end of 2024 or beginning of 2025. So Vanguard obviously has been studying Bitcoin. They have someone that is familiar with Bitcoin leading the ship. Pun intended. And now we've gotten to the point where we see this be released. And so everyone on Twitter was like, all right, Vanguard finally capitulating. You know, they're bending the knee to Bitcoin at the absolute bottom, which is would have been a pretty smart move if they were actually like, no. We don't like Bitcoin. It's the price is too high, but we're going to get in at the 50% discount. Would be kind of a Chad mood. I'm not going to lie. Well, we got another update here this morning, and maybe this is even more telling than just that initial story. Shouts out to Eric Balkunis, of course, senior ETF analyst for Bloomberg. And he tweets, Vanguard reached out to me in regards to their job posting for a head of digital assets and want to be clear that they haven't, quote, bent the knee and or been orange pilled, but rather just want to make sure they are utilizing the tech. Here is the official statement. Vanguard continually evaluates emerging technologies, including blockchain and tokenization, to ensure our brokerage platform serves our investors. As part of that effort, we are building out the team responsible for developing the strategy, policies, and controls to ensure our infrastructure is prepared to support evolving industry standards. I don't know, guys. It does, in fact, sound like they are bending the knee and capitulating. Maybe they didn't get orange pilled here, but it sounds like that does sound like a bending of the knee. Though, as you can see, maybe there's two lessons to be learned here. One, dude, our shit posts get to the institution CEO, and they do not like it. The suits out there cannot deal with the shit posting, guys. So continue to shit post. It's obviously working. It is getting to them. We will make them all capitulate. Every domino will fall. They will all succumb to the Bitcoin fever. They will all succumb to the orange pill cult. No. I mean, honestly, like I'm low-key joking, but it's just funny to me that like everyone's tweeting about this. Like, no, wait. No, we haven't bit the knee. And then in the press release, it's like, look, we're just researching it. We're just making sure that our platform is up to date. But I think it also is saying another thing that is less kind of trolly. I love a good shitpost. Yeah, me too. I think what it is also saying is that essentially you can't ignore Bitcoin. Though Wall Street, I did find it interesting that they did say tokenization and blockchain and not Bitcoin in particular. We've seen the huge push from Wall Street for tokenization. They want to tokenize all the things. You know, what did SEC chair Paul Atkins say like a few weeks ago? He's like, all stocks and equities will be on the blockchain here soon. And you're just like, oh my God. The shit coining from Wall Street is going to be insane. Also, G Money, if you're listening, I have not read your tokenization take, but he did have a very interesting tokenization take. I've been procrastinating on reading your article. Forgive me, bro. I will maybe my take on tokenization will evolve and mature after reading that. We'll see. I'm still like Wall Street shit coining is going to be insane. But further, you know, one, they didn't even mention Bitcoin at all. They're just like, hey, we're researching this. It's like 2017 all over. Like, don't like Bitcoin, but blockchain's a new technology, emerging technology, and we're trying to stay up to date. And we have to, we have to research this, and we got to make sure that we're on top of our game. It's like, okay, bro, like heard that before. But further, that the customers that use Vanguard are obviously pressuring them to get into Bitcoin, digital assets, tokenization, however the hell you want to call it. You're starting to see that behind the scenes. I think this is probably going to be the initial sign of them actually bending the knee and capitulating. Though it is interesting that they said we have not been orange pilled. And I'm really not even mad about that. I don't think the institutions need to quote unquote be orange pilled. I don't think they need to be ideological Bitcoin believers. All they have to do is basically allow their customers to buy Bitcoin, and it's game over. Like I've come a long way in my Bitcoin journey, where when I first got in Bitcoin, I was listening to, all of my favorite Bitcoiners. I drank the Kool-Aid. I'm like, every single person will hold Bitcoin. That everyone will be a Bitcoiner one day. And I think you guys gave me a lot of flack for me saying that Elon Musk was a Bitcoiner. I remember I tweeted the first trillionaire in the world's a Bitcoiner, and everyone's like, oh, he's not really a Bitcoiner, bro. Like, he doesn't understand Bitcoin. I'm like, it doesn't matter. He holds Bitcoin on all of his public companies' treasuries. Like, what more do you want? Like, I don't think everyone needs to be a diehard Bitcoin maximalist, like ideologically, an ideological cult member. As long as they're holding Bitcoin and using Bitcoin, I would say that they're Bitcoiners. And so even though they are in themselves saying we have not bent the knee, we are not orange pilled, it's like, I don't think you have to be. Just allow Bitcoin on your platform, and further let the Bitcoin leave your platform. And I think that is a huge win for all of us. I don't think everyone needs to be a hardcore ideological Bitcoin purist like we are. I think it goes into one of the things I've been saying for a long time, that the memes and the rhetorical tools that were used, and this is going to sound bad, on us to understand Bitcoin, I don't think those same tools are going to work on getting more people using Bitcoin. I think it had a shelf life. It got as many people as possible that were freedom-minded, liberty-minded, cypherpunk, etc. But the next move isn't going to be a logical argument. It's going to be a lot more emotional. It's going to be just pure utility. We are already seeing signs of this playing out on multiple fronts. Whether it's energy companies being interested in Bitcoin mining, whether it's Wall Street just being, obsessed with Bitcoin. The greed, whether it's Wall Street being freaking devoured because of their greed, or we're seeing it in the Strait of Hormuz, Bitcoin payments for the tolls. We're seeing talks of Bitcoin, or sorry, oil being priced in Bitcoin, like those are the two sectors where that's where we fundamentally take over the world. Once we get like the petrosat, once we see energy priced in Bitcoin and the Wall Street greed be overtaken by Bitcoin, that will usher in a whole new cohort of people. And they won't be sitting here with us every single day, 21 million hard cap, censorship resistant, peer-to-peer money, et cetera, et cetera. They're just going to want to use it to live a better life. And do they have to understand everything that we do? No, I think we only had to do that so that we can understand that Bitcoin wasn't going to die, that we felt safe investing every single penny we had. I think the next move here, people aren't going to be asking whether Bitcoin is going to go away. They're just going to be like, how can I use this to better my life? How can I make some gains off of this? How does this improve what I'm already doing? How does adding Bitcoin to my company treasury increase my runway? And we're seeing that happen in the Bitcoin treasury space, in particular SpaceX, largest Bitcoin company in the world. So there is a shifting, a phase shift of what's going on here. And it is funny to me that Vanguard basically is like, no, we're really not Bitcoiners. And it's like, yeah, cool story, but you bent the knee. Like, I don't care what you're saying. You have bent the knee. Yeah, you're not orange pilled. But I don't know. I remember a year or two ago, your CEO was saying we will never even research this thing. It is never coming to our platform. And here we are. So personally, I just found that very interesting. I think obviously they're looking into it. I think this also adds more proof to the idea that every institution is looking into this. Maybe they're not as public. I think this probably only made the headlines because Vanguard's saga of hating Bitcoin was a thing in our past. But I think everyone's doing this. They're all researching. They're all trying to get their ducks in a row. They're all trying to figure out where they can come into the market, where they can get some arbitrage, where they can make an impact. How is this going to improve our customers' bottom line? If they even think about that. But no Lambo, no moon. Yeah. Bitcoin is a financial IQ test. I would believe. I don't like Elon, but I have to admit he's smart enough to be a Bitcoiner. Flat Earth, you just don't, or Flat Smack. What is it? Flat Smack? You just don't like him because he's a globey like me. Globe maximalist, okay? I'm no longer just a Bitcoin maxi. I'm a globe maximalist. All right, guys. What do I have here at the end? What did I put up here? Oh, yeah. I do have some culture stuff for you guys. We will be talking about the Lightning Network a little bit, so we will nerd out a little bit, but we did see a recent announcement that I think is very interesting. I couldn't really talk about it too much in the show, so I'm gonna sneak it in on the culture here. So I'll be right back, and we will wrap up the Wednesday, July 8th, 2026 show.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, HIVE Digital Technologies. Fueled by clean energy across 3 continents, HIVE runs dual engines, Bitcoin mining and AI compute. Their AI platform is ranked #1 in the world for network performance, and it's doing something bigger than compute. It's accelerating human discovery, the science, the breakthroughs, pushing humanity further and faster. Listed on the NASDAQ with the ticker HIVE. Catch the latest buzz at HIVE Digital Tech on X or HIVEdigitaltech.com.
You secured your Bitcoin, but did you secure your devices too? They're still broadcasting your location and digital footprint. GPS, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, cell, 5G, EMF, all of it is leaking. Escape Zone fixes that. Their Faraday bags block every signal your device emits, so you decide when you're detectable, not the grid. Built for Bitcoiners who know sovereignty isn't just your wallet. It's your phone, your hardware wallet, your keys, and your entire digital life. Go to escapezone.com/simply and use code simply for 10% off. That's escapezone.com/simply, code simply. All right, guys. So we saw this happen yesterday. And you guys know Nico loves Polymarket. But we did see some interesting news, come out of Polymarket. So starting yesterday, Polymarket now supports Bitcoin deposits over Lightning powered by Spark. Deposit Bitcoin straight to Polymarket faster and more privately. And looking down here, Odell goes massive. The Bitcoin integration on Poly was pretty bad. So we've seen Spark. I believe this is David Marcus. Am I correct on this? Did I remember this correctly? I'm pretty sure this is David Marcus, who used to work at Coinbase. I don't know. This site's crazy. I don't know. You guys could fact check me on that. But we have seen a lot of Spark integration. It does look as if Lightning is one of the payment rails that we thought it was going to be. Lightning is how Bitcoin scales. It's not the only layer 2 implementation. I have been seeing ARC make a lot of moves recently. There's still like Giacomo's RGB, et cetera, et cetera. But what we have seen throughout this bear market, which I find very interesting, is that Lightning is like low-key doing exactly what we said it was going to do 5 years ago, but it's just not making the headlines because there's a lot of money behind a lot of these shit coins. But the quick and fast and damn near free payments are happening on Lightning, and a lot of people are implementing Lightning. Now, maybe you don't like Polymarket, sure, but Polymarket is pretty popular. It is part of the cultural zeitgeist right now. It is part of just the cultural mind share. And it, let me see. I don't even know how many people use Polymarket. How many people use Polymarket? AI, let's see. It says between 250,000 or 200 and 250,000 monthly users, showing over 1.6 million accounts created on the platform. So Lightning through Spark now live on Polymarket. And I know a lot of you guys have said before, I've seen you in the chat be like, why do you guys talk about Polymarket so much? It's a shitcoin platform. Well, now they got good Lightning integration. So can we talk about Polymarket again? I'm not the biggest fan of Polymarket because I don't know. I haven't read it yet. But I saw a new Mark Goodwin, Whitney Webb article about Polymarket that basically broke the internet. Let's put it nicely. It sounds like there's some shady origin stories there. But no, I really don't like Polymarket because even though it does lean into like put your money where your mouth is, and it has been pretty close to correct. We have seen some interesting things going. I think that was with Cauchy though, where like they wouldn't fulfill a winning bet. I think that was around Saylor, will he sell Bitcoin? I think that was on Cauchy. But I've always just viewed it as I think there's some shenanigans going on at Polymarket that I'm not putting my money on. I do find it interesting to look at Polymarket odds. I also maybe am ideologically opposed a little bit here because now, like, again, the entire world is a casino and everyone's gambling. And I think that's probably a, what do you call it? Wow, I'm blanking on the word. A manifestation of the broken money. No one can save anymore, so we're all just gambling. But to give you a little more updates here, shouts out to my boys over at Amboss, in particular, my old friend Justifer. He tweeted, he says, this is the power of open standards. Because Polymarket now speaks Lightning, our payment APIs work with it out of the box for both deposits and withdrawals. No custom integration needed. Bullish for Lightning as the settlement layer everyone can plug into. So it is a huge move for Lightning. It's good publicity for Polymarket. But I did also see a bit of contention rearing its head again around Spark. So I do want to read that, in particular by Not Grubbles. And he goes, I love seeing Bitcoin adoption, but I feel a strong ethical obligation to point out how no Spark wallet app implements unilateral exit. None of them. This means you fully trust a third party due to how wallets implement Spark support in practice. Also, none of the recovery tools that claim to provide, quote, unilateral exit actually can do one. They all call out to a Spark server and ask for your state chain leaves. No wallet app saves these locally. If the server is down, you are screwed. And it goes on to show how he was able to do this. If you don't believe me, here's the open pull request to implement unilateral support for Breeze SDK wallets, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, hey, it may not be perfect, but we have gotten to a point now where I think since Lightning no longer is the new thing in Bitcoin, it doesn't really get much fanfare. It's been quietly building on the back end. It's been quietly being adopted by a lot of Bitcoin companies and wallets. I think it is, in fact, what a lot of the Bitcoiners were saying in, what was it, like 2020? When was the Lightning torch? I think that was 2020. When we all were playing with Lightning, we're like, oh, we did it. You know, we're going to finally be able to ignore the shitcoiners because Bitcoin isn't, you know, what do they say? 6 transactions per second and clunky and slow, and you got to wait 10 minutes for final settlement. It's like, no, Lightning Network is working. It's cheap. It's fast. It's private. And now we're seeing, hey, it took a little while, but it's taking off. Yes, maybe it's not perfect what we're seeing. Maybe some of the companies that come in, there's some trade-offs to it. But we are seeing that whether it is self-custodial or, you know, kind of a custodial, maybe light format, Lightning is working. Lightning, as of now, I think is very obviously becoming the payments layer of Bitcoin. I think what I saw the other day, this was coming from Matt Corallo tweet. He was essentially saying, like, look, if your Lightning payments are failing even 1%, like, get in touch with us because that should not be happening. From what I've seen, it seems like I'm making the numbers up, but it's like 99 point something % of all Lightning transactions are going through. And if you are having issues, it's kind of like there's something that is happening there that you got to look into. But it's almost like Lightning has been completely fleshed out as a payments app. Like Lightning is the layer 2. And it's interesting, especially right now where the shit coins are. Like the altcoin market's cooked. There's still a lot of people saying, oh, alt season's coming back. I'm pretty convinced that they're not. But most of the FUD around Lightning not being the payments layer of Bitcoin has been coming from the shit coins. I would venture to guess that the majority of it's probably coming from Ripple because they got a bunch of money. And, you know, Ripple's the one that's going to be the payments layer of the future or whatever, you know, bank to bank payments or whatever the hell they still saying. But no, Lightning is doing exactly what it said it was. It is the payments layer. So at this point in the bear market, if you haven't used Lightning yet, I would urge you to make some Lightning payments, even if it's a couple of sats. I just saw Cake Wallet, which I've never used Cake Wallet, but they did just launch like this encrypted chat app where you can send sats over. I thought that was pretty cool. I saw a lot of people messing with that. I forget what it was called. So if you never use Lightning, you know, there's tools out there, whether it's like the Aqua Wallet. Wow, I'm blanking on Blink Wallet. What are the other? BitKit Wallet. You know, there's a lot of wallets out there. Nostr. There's a lot of ways that you can mess with Lightning right now just to kind of get your chops on it. Because I think pretty soon here, maybe not this cycle per se. Maybe not in like the next year or two, but maybe in the next 4-ish. I think a lot of us are going to want to kind of move from layer 1 to layer 2 so that we can actually transact and use our coin. Reminds me of the Hal Finney quote of, Bitcoin transactions on the base layer. Well, he didn't say base layer, but I'm going to add base layer, are as rare or will be as rare in the future as they are today. And he's basically saying like it's going to build in the stack. So anyways, Polymarket adopting Spark or Lightning through Spark. I guess now we can all be degenerates. All right. Did the shitcoin obstacle of stopping you from going on Polymarket, has it been solved by them allowing Lightning, guys? Let's all go be degenerate. No, this is not. This is financial entertainment. I guess now we can all go bet on the weather. Let's all go bet on whether the Iran war will end. Let's all go bet on, I don't even know what's on. The Clarity Act will pass. Will Bitcoin hit 100K by 2027? I'm going to need some easy bets here, all right? This is financial entertainment, but I need you guys to send me some sure wins here on Polymarket because I'm bored. I need to get my bag up, bro. Like, I need some degen. I need some degen stuff to do because Bitcoin is boring me. But yeah, now, guys, hey, I guess us ideologically Bitcoin purists can now go be degenerates on Polymarket using Lightning. Good times, man. Fun times. All right, let me see what you guys are saying. Let's see. Elon is a flat earther. 100% he knows. Dude, has he been to the ice wall? He's been to the ice wall. All right, I triggered the flat earthers in the chat. Okay, that's my bad, guys. That is my bad. Sharp scale, not at all. I've heard Lightning like 200 times and I'm still not buying it. What do you mean? You don't buy Lightning? It's not a shit coin. Or are you saying you're not buying that it is the payment layer? Yeah, it's you don't buy Lightning coins. You put your Bitcoin from layer 1 into layer 2 Lightning so that it can move quicker. Bitcoin faucets? No, dude. Bitcoin faucets are dumb. David Reels, is this true? I think I missed that. Big Polymarket sued for insider trading shenanigans. I think I saw something that basically said that like only the top 1% of Polymarket accounts are like making money and everyone else is losing money. Is that the same case? Radar chat. Yeah, Michael Blast. Yeah, that looked really cool. I've yet to look into it, but it looks pretty cool, man. It looks pretty. I use ZBD and spin on fold every day. Man, ZBD. Do you remember your Lightning message, like Lightning super chat app you had, man? Good days on BK. Good if you know where you could super chat and it would pop up on the screen, man. That was good. That was good. Wars over there have been going on since biblical times. True. All right. Anyways, hardware wallet to layer 2 wallet to use Lightning. Was that a question? Hardware wallet to layer 2 wallet to use Lightning. Yeah. Take some Bitcoin from cold. Not a lot. Maybe, $20, something minor. And put it in a Lightning wallet, like on your phone, and start messing with it. Let's make a Lightning shitcoin into a rug pull. No, we will not do that. We won't. I think it's already been made. Oh yeah, Dolphin. Wait, the Dolphin wallet. Wait, no, is that Aqua? Wait, I don't know what Dolphin is. I think Aqua has the Dolphin card. I think that's what I'm thinking. All right. Anyways, guys, I'll see you tomorrow, man. It's Wednesday. It's hump day. The bear market is so bad. Nico can't afford to pay himself to host with Opti. Dude, true. Cotton 4K. Cotton 4K. No, I don't know what he's doing, dude. I haven't even seen him in the last 2 days. Dude, I don't know what's going on. Aqua is the GOAT. Yeah. Okay. Okay, yeah. The Aqua wallet's cool. Opti, wouldn't you say that the bottom was in at 58K? Even the news of Iran, U.S. war hasn't crashed. That's basically what I was kind of, maybe I didn't say it clear enough, but that's kind of what I was meaning to say at the beginning of the show. That's going to be interesting to see what happens towards the rest of this week. But I've been pretty convinced that 58K was the bottom. Well, 57, whatever. You know, that 58 to 60K. I am pretty convinced that was the bottom. And then adding to that, the Sailor sale just shows how liquid Bitcoin is. And it is all narrative driven. And so like this crash today isn't even that bad. So I wouldn't be surprised if we do get some kind of pullback on the price this week, maybe just today and tomorrow, or I don't know, maybe going into Friday, whatever. And then if we do get a reversal here, or maybe this is the dip and then it climbs back tomorrow, that would, to me, show Bitcoin is super liquid and we're kind of in a very bullish position. So, yeah. Anyways, guys, I'll see you tomorrow. Have a good rest of your day. Also, you know, what do I always say? Sorry, guys. I tweaked my back a little bit this morning at the gym. Eat some good food. Wait. Maybe I need to adjust this. Eat good, but eat clean and cut some calories. Get a workout in, get some sun, a walk, call your loved ones. But again, most importantly, stack some Bitcoin, take it into cold storage, and start building something awesome. All right, guys. I'll catch you tomorrow. Have a good rest of your day. We will be back live around 12:40 tomorrow. Peace out.
Today's episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.